Are you looking to grow revenues, increase profitability, or obtain financing? If so, you came to the right place.
Running a business is all about leadership. How do you become a better leader? Learn from the successful entrepreneurs and business owners how to lead your organization more effectively. That's why we created Leadership Live at 8:05, Talking Small Business, to help you succeed with your host, Andrew Frazier, Business Growth Pro and CFO and founder of the Small Business Pro University. Every Tuesday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern, we're joined by experienced entrepreneurs and business owners who share their secrets to success via live stream. Also, every Friday morning, we release a new podcast episode. Either way, you will learn about developing your business leadership skills from our roster of highly performing guest experts. Leadership Live is one of the many valuable resources provided through the Small Business Pro University, empowering business owners to learn, profit, and grow. Find out more at sbprou.com.
Good evening and welcome back to Leadership Live at 8:05. I'm your host, Andrew Frazier, and excited to be hanging out with you once again on Tuesday evening. As you know, your business can only go as far as you're prepared to take it. So at the end of the day, it's important for you to continually develop as a leader so that you can continue to move your business forward faster and easier. And that's why we created Leadership Live at 8:05, Talking Small Business. The best way to learn about leadership is from successful leaders and thought leaders in the space where you are. So we bring, great guests who have great experience and knowledge, but also in the small business space and understanding how small business is and it works. Definitely, we always appreciate everybody joining us. Please make sure to put your comments and questions in the chat. And looking forward to a great evening tonight. So our guest this evening is Dr. Jeffrey Magee. And, he's done some amazing things, certified in many aspects of business and leadership. And, brings that also to bear in his magazine, Professional Performance, which I had the opportunity to contribute to a year or so ago. So definitely excited about having him, and let me bring him on now. Hey, Dr. Jeff, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. It's fun to be on Leadership at 8:05. What a great program and a great name. I love it. Absolutely enjoying it. Thank you so much for having me on tonight.
Excellent. Thanks for joining us, especially, near the holidays, it's great that you could take some time, and also it's a great timing for what we're going to discuss tonight. So I think, tonight's, topic is Changeformational Theory and really how to win tomorrow's market, in tomorrow's marketplace. And, that's really, what Dr. Jeff does, and helps people to be able to do more successfully. He's written a book around it. He's created content around it, and look forward to learning more about it, having him share some of the key insights so it can help you be more successful as well. Before we get started, I always like to have the guests, talk a little bit about their journey. So if you could take a few minutes, talk a little bit about your journey, key aspects of, what led you to where you are now.
Great question. You pose that question to probably anybody, their answer is going to be, it was not by design. Very few people, when they look back 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, can really say that, where I am today is exactly the architectural blueprint that I put together. Now, a lot of times where you are is in an idea where you headed to be. But for me, I grew up in Colorado. My goal was to be the next world-class business journalist. So I had opportunity to actually be very creative in journalism in high school, was able to get actually articles published in local Colorado Springs newspaper where I grew up before I went to college. That got me to college, that and a cross-country scholarship. Graduated, spent some time in Kansas City in journalism, but very quickly recognized journalism was a very negative, toxic, challenging industry. Very few people wanted to write or read, according to my editors, anything about success and achievement and positive and how to be resilient, all the buzzwords of today, and how to be a creative business entrepreneur. Those sort of articles were very few and far between. So that pushed me, as it pushes probably a lot of our guests that you have on, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners, into the business world, into the private sector. So that journey then took me into working in sales for a Fortune 100 company. That took me to then working in the private sector. Jump forward a couple decades later, I find myself where I am today. And so I have a talent development company, jeffreymagee.com, and a media company, which is Professional Performance Magazine. But I do look back at that journey of the decades and realize everything I did went into building who I am today. And you talk about, again, businesses and talk about leadership. And the real element is, what is our structure for that organization to be successful? And secondly, what's the mindset we take into running that business on a daily basis? And that's where Changeformational, the book, came about. Living in Las Vegas during COVID, I just started seeing a lot of great businesses cease to exist. And a lot of businesses that others didn't think would be successful survive. And I started realizing businesses kind of fall in three categories. And that's kind of what the origin of Changeformational is about, and some of the models that are in there that anyone can massively benefit from. So that's the quick story. There's probably a whole lot more I could unpack, but I don't want to bore people with the past. Let's talk about the future.
Excellent. So we are going to talk about the future. And, it's amazing that you mentioned, definitely people's journey are different than they would expect. But one thing I found is you sort of come back to things earlier in life.
Absolutely. A lot of that.
I started as a paper boy in 4th grade. Went to college.
Same here. I feel you. Keep going.
Went to college, got an MBA, worked in corporate, was in the Navy, and look at what I'm doing. Small business. So definitely, look at what you did when you were young. And,
you talk about being a paper boy or paper girl. Let's unpack that for a second. Because again, some people that are, watching this today may not have that reference point, sadly and unfortunately. But, if you think about those of us that had that experience is exactly what every successful business owner is looking for today in the next executive they're going to hire or the next frontline employee they want to hire. And that is simply this. If you're a paper boy or paper girl in the, in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, so I don't know, they started croaking and dying out in the 90s and everything went online in the 2000s. But if you think about that, let's just play a little game with our viewers here tonight, Andrew.
Okay.
Was it a morning or afternoon paper route?
I did afternoon 7 days a week and then Sunday morning.
Yes, we'll just pick on Sunday morning because I was a paper boy, but then there was 2 newspapers in Colorado Springs, Colorado, when I grew up. One was a morning, one was an afternoon. And so mine was the morning. So I did every day what you did on Sunday, which means you got up very early. And the papers were probably in a bundle and dropped off in your driveway. And then you had to undo them and fold them however you're going to fold them and put them in your bag, whether you're carrying it or put it on your bicycle. And then you then went out and you delivered all those papers and basically were home before most people were even getting up. Does that sound like about your Sunday morning routine?
Well, we didn't go quite as early. But what we had to do was Friday night, we got 2 of the 3 sections of the paper. So we put those together, and then we had to put the 3rd section together that we got Sunday morning. And, we had our wagon, and we didn't throw the paper. So we actually put it on everybody's porch or in their door.
Even more customer service.
Yes. So, but you learn everything that you need to know in any other type of business. You get that experience when you're young, which is amazing.
Assembly line, structure, discipline. No one's going to do it if you don't show up, more than likely. Getting it done. Customers want it. You're running late. Oh, they're so nice to you, even as a child. And then you had that once a month, you went around with your cash little envelope or however you did it, and you knocked on doors to get paid for the month. I mean, if you think about that, you can take each one of those lessons and just mature them to what it would look like with your MBA today. And a lot of it the same thing. You have accounts receivable, you have accounts payable. You want to do a phenomenal job, so you might get a tip, you might get a gratuity, you might get a bonus, you might get a, something else in there besides just a straight, payment for the bill. Again, how you delivered it. You quickly recognize again how to do your route so you can expedite it and save time. And how do you get to the front point? I mean, all of that's the same thing as supply chains. Again, product delivery chains. Looking at your value streams. Looking at, again, if you had to outsource it, did you get your little brother or sister or one of the other neighbor kids to help you out sometimes? Or if you were not going to be able to do your route, then how did you find someone to cover for you on that time you weren't going to be there? You're going to be on vacation, or you knew you were going to be, out, or you were sick. I mean, all of those lessons at an early age really is exactly what the CEO of a corporation is dealing with if you break it down that fundamental. And that really, again, leadership at 8:05, business at 8:05. It's what it's about. I mean, again, our viewers, if they're catching us live, the lesson learned there for everyone who's not participating right now is that you're taking time out of your evening to participate in this program and catch your breath and maybe have something to eat and drink while you're consuming some good information. Again, best practice, lessons learned, all of these things they teach us in grad school and graduate school and PhD level. I just sometimes smile and laugh. It's like, really, it's not a new revelation, kids. This stuff is in your face every day if you're paying attention.
Right. But you have to have a role where you see it. A lot of time you go through life, but you don't notice a lot of things going on around you. And
that's exactly it. I mean, again, some of our viewers, Darren, you work for a newspaper. I'm looking at some of the notes and messages being typed in at the same time. I mean, it's a great lesson. So again, if we're looking to hire someone, I mean, I want someone who's actually, had that work ethic of just like you with your afternoon paper out in mine in the morning. And again, when I talk with executives that are looking at, challenges they have from a talent management standpoint, I'm always, just mesmerized. But again, that's why they hire people like you and I to come in, because we see things from a different lens than they do. But sometimes the problems that people have were easily avoided if they had just asked better questions, different questions, looked at what they're doing from a different perspective. It's really kind of the theme of Changeformational, and how it came about was I started recognizing during COVID that, this whole world has been acclimated to this concept of change. It's $1 billion industry. You nor I are going to change or win on this next statement, which is great because it means we're never going to be unemployed. But change is $1 billion industry because we've calibrated the planet to deal with change this way. If you live in the world of change, the best you will ever be is a survivor. Now, sometimes surviving might mean, hey, I'm doing comfortable and I'm okay. And the other way of letting that pendulum swing and think about surviving might be barely keeping your head above water. Well, no one wants to be there. But if you're living in a world of change, what that means is that you have no control over what's going on. Because like right now, we're doing this program. Someone in our life is changing a policy, a rule, a procedure, a deliverable. And when we get done with this, we're going to go back into our life and we're going to run into that change that someone else has created. And so we have to figure out, how do we adapt? How do we adopt? And all the business buzzwords of the past decade plus, how do you become lean and agile and nimble and et cetera, to attempt to put yourself in a position to be as successful as you can, given the reality that change means you don't have any control over it. But the majority of the planet lives in a change world. And living in Vegas when COVID hit, I started seeing this very clearly with businesses from Starbucks to MGM to Caesar's Palace to Amazon and everyone in between. So then I realized, okay, so if change is happening 24/7, then the second word that a lot of us live with is transformation. So transformation, businesses, gear up for this one time a year transformation. They're going to change an operating system, their CRM, their customer interface portal on a website. You and I as individuals, we get geared up for a major life transformation we're going to make because the doctor says you've got to do this, or you've gotten divorced, or you've gotten married, or someone's passed away. So transformations happen in our personal life like once a year, once every several years. So if change equals survival, then to me, transformation equals thrive. So we do these transformations to find a way to rationalize we're going to thrive. We're going to pull ahead of the competition, as they say. And what I started realizing is, wait a second, both of those worlds, again, are going to be there. But if you really want to be successful in life, you don't want to play in either one. So here's what I realized with the word changeformational. If change is happening 24/7, it's the person who's astute enough to recognize when change is happening. What can I do to drive a transformation through that window of change opportunity and do them as often as possible? Because when you're changeformational, that's the only time you're going to win. because you're leveraging the change that's happening for all of us. But a lot of people are going to bitch and complain about it, or resist and get angry about it, or jump up and down and cry and throw darts at someone else because it's someone else's fault. And then someone's going to say, wait a second, we need to do something massive and transform. Well, wait a second, let's play with both those worlds at the same time. And that's what Changeformational is all about. And so with this model, it gives you a whole new way of looking at things. And so a question just popped up here: can startups be Changeformational? Absolutely. Transformational. How do you look at what everyone else is doing and the direction they're all going and say, wait a second, if everyone's going there, that's red ocean. It's not blue ocean mentality. There's another thought from decades ago. See, a lot of the lessons to really survive are already there. The lessons to transform are there, but the lessons to be transformational are also there. But very few people have the discipline, like a paper boy or a paper girl, to get their butt out of bed and do the hard work at 6 a.m. or 5 a.m. or 4 a.m. or 3 a.m. and do it consistently every day. That becomes a habit of success. Again, look at any rock star athlete, pro athlete, someone who's at the top of their industry in any profession, and you'll see that they're doing all the things that everyone else is finding an excuse to not do. So Changeformational absolutely can be applied. So what you do is, if you're a startup, and say, wait a second, am I filling a need in the marketplace? Because if that's no, you're not a startup. Shut up and close up your door and quit wasting everyone's money. If there's a need you're going to serve and no one else is doing it, then you're right. Let's start and launch a new business, whether it's going to be tangible or intangible. What's a commodity or non-commodity? How do you leverage all the tools today, like AI? All that AI is another tool, and everyone is thinking it's going to replace everyone. I giggle from the sideline because they're running down the wrong road. That road's going to run them right into a dead-end wall, and they're all going to pile up at the end, and you're just going to make a slight change and go somewhere else towards success. So Changeformational is where you fit a need. Remember, marketing teaches us there's only 4 reasons someone's ever going to change what they do to buy from you. There's only 4 reasons you change your own mentality to buy from someone else. And it's simply the words better, faster, different, and cost effective. If I can show you as a startup, I have a way to do something better than what you're doing right now, you're going to look at my offer. Or different that serves your needs that's not available in the marketplace. Or more cost effective. And cost effective doesn't always mean cheaper and bottom dollar. There's times people pay a whole lot more if it's cost effective. And again, what's most efficient? So better, faster, different, cost effective. So great question, Andrew. I mean, we could go on and have a master class on this one all night long. But Changeformational really provides 5 models in it for you to look at business completely differently. And if you're a startup, you definitely should be reading this book, and everyone on your team should be reading it. And there's a model called DIPS, disruption, interruption, points. That's where startups win, is knowing when the next dip's going to happen, and you're already there when everyone else shows up.
Okay, excellent. So, no, I mean, definitely look forward to really digging into Changeformational and how to win. But before we do that, I just want to take a sec. Small Business Pro University. This is one of our brain trust initiatives, and our goal is to help entrepreneurs to sell more, maximize profit, and finance growth. And I've got a short video about what Small Business Pro University is and how we can help you. Many small businesses experience low or no revenue growth, and the owners are not making enough money. I founded Small Business Pro University to help you break that cycle by empowering you with greater knowledge and enhanced skills to lead your organization more effectively. Over the past 15 years, I've collaborated with organizations like the Small Business Development Center, Rising Tide Capital, Empower the Village, NJMEP, Rutgers University, and SCORE to work one-on-one with over 1,000 business owners and teach tens of thousands of people about business. My experience includes serving as a naval officer, managing businesses, graduating from MIT, earning an MBA from NYU, and achieving the CFA designation, which has prepared me to accomplish my mission of helping 1,008,000 business owners to sell more, maximize profit, and finance growth by 2028. My vision is to create the ultimate business ecosystem for entrepreneurs. Small Business Pro University empowers entrepreneurs like you to run their businesses more professionally and create sustainable enterprises. We employ my proven proprietary Masterpreneur Playbook framework to guide your journey along the Masterpreneur path and facilitate your Masterpreneur evolution to work on your business and scale faster and easier. Small Business Pro University provides access to valuable resources, partnerships, and relationships, that will help you to sell more, maximize profit, and finance growth. Our Masterpreneur initiatives include the Small Business Pro Network, 100 plus expert-led multimedia courses, intensive training workshops, Spanish language training, Leadership Live at 8:05 live stream and podcast, in-person Power Breakfast events, and advisory coaching, consulting, and training services. Okay. All right. Welcome back.
Phenomenal. I love what you're doing with the Small Business Pro approach. Very similar to what I'm doing at the mid-size and large corporate approach. So again, for our viewers, this is phenomenal. If you're not tapping in to some of these resources you just saw, again, you're just leaving opportunity on the table.
Thank you. So, Jeff, you talked about, the key things that differentiate people in terms of being better, faster, different, or more cost effective, which is critical. And you shared what Changeformational Theory is. And what I've found, and I'm sure you have too, is that many change efforts fail and are unsuccessful. And even big companies, and probably especially big companies. And why is that? And how do you work with companies to be able to be more likely to succeed in their change and transformation?
Great question. So again, you're asking me for my answer, and I appreciate and respect that. I'll give you my answer. Everyone may have a response to that. What I have found working with the military, and I appreciate your Navy time. I've been working with the National Guard for 34 years, working with leadership initiatives with adjutant generals, which is their senior military leader, and working with the recruiting retention battalion teams, which is the sales force for the military, for 34 years. So working with the military, I find that there's three answers to that question. Working with large corporations, I have large companies I do work with on a regular basis with leadership team. I've got clients I've been working with for 10, 15 years that are at the $20 billion size. I have private held corporations between 500 million and $1 billion I've been working with for over a decade. I've got smaller firms that are in that 20 to $30 million annual revenue range. So I give that kind of paintbrush scope. So my next approach would make sense. I found there's 3 steps that works in every one of them. Now, the micro of how you do this is obviously going to change from an organization and from the people you're dealing with within an organization. But the first step to dealing with change and making it effective and making it flow and work is awareness. The first step to change is awareness. Awareness is all of the issues of helping everyone to understand, including ourselves, what we're talking about and why. If you cannot clearly articulate what you're talking about and why we're talking about doing this, what we're doing now, what we need to be doing, why we're doing it this way, why we need to do another way. If you can't make step 1 make sense to you and everyone else, it's doomed for failure. That's why there's 3 steps. So the first step is not, you spending days and weeks getting your head wrapped around what you need to be doing and why, or talking to a small select group of people and you spend days, weeks, or months, all of you getting your heads wrapped around step 1 of awareness of what and why. Hit pause. If it's taking you a long time to get your brain wrapped around step 1, then clue, it might take your team a little bit more than like 1 email to get their brain wrapped around number 1 and buy into it. So buy-in is at number 1. That's awareness to the what's and whys. Once our brain understands what and why, it naturally says, okay, next step. Next step then is going to be all of the engagement, all of the interaction, all of the HOWs. How have we been doing it that's not necessarily working, given the new reality and new future in front of us? And therefore, how do we need to be responding or reacting or operating or managing or processing? I mean, all the HOWs is step 2. And sometimes that HOW is going to mean we all need to slow down. I mean, one of the programs you even offer here at Small Business Pro is Spanish Immersion Program. Well, again, why would I want to do that? Well, why you might want to know that is because your business has been very successful forever at the zip code you're in, but the demographic is changing. It's not a right, wrong, good, bad. It's a reality. And you have a lot of, in essence, Spanish-speaking people that are going to be either your customers online or brick and mortar walking in your door, or you're going to have Spanish-speaking people that are going to be your employees. So your ability to understand Spanish, speak Spanish, connect to people at that level is going to make you much more effective and now you can finish that sentence any way you want. People go, aha, makes sense. Now all of a sudden they're interested in that topic. But before they're resisting it, and that's human nature, is to resist those things we don't want to buy into. So step 1 is awareness, step 2 is engagement, all of the HOWs. Once everyone understands how to do what it is we now need to do, and everyone's comfortable with that, and they see that support 24/7 within the organization and 360 from everyone within the organization, then the third step of change is going to be, in essence, commitment. Commitment means execution. Commitment means WHEN. So step 1 is awareness, what and how and why, and step 2 is engagement, and that's going to be all the who and the hows. Then step 3 is the when, WHEN, when we're going to have execution, implementation. When are we going to need to be at, this checkpoint to get to the next checkpoint, or how do we benchmark, or what are the KPIs to know if we're progressing in the right direction? Are we ahead of schedule, behind schedule? And those are your 3 steps. And the reason change sometimes doesn't ever really get to the final level, and we see the fruit of our labor, as they say, is because not everyone has actually ever bought into stage 1. Or you've got people that got left behind and are not really buying in at stage 2. I don't understand how this works. I don't understand how this new piece of technology, I've been using this other platform, or, this other sign in, or this other whatever forever. I've got clients that in the early 2000s, when technology was really becoming the norm. See, this is interesting for a lot of our viewers today. It's 2026. And just in the last 20 years, if you think of a lot of businesses, 20 years ago, they had very few computers and technology in their office, period. To today, everyone has technology on their wristwatch, on their phone. So, your little phone is equivalent of an entire computer in some offices 20 years ago. So the first 3 steps are very interesting, but that would be my response to how do you deal with change? How do you manage change? How do you make change happen? Awareness, engagement, commitment, and you win.
Okay, excellent. So actually, you answered several questions that people had. So let me just recognize. So Dixon, what's the biggest mistake leaders make?
Dixon, great question. I think the biggest mistake business leaders make, period. And Dixon, I love your question. I think the biggest mistake leaders make, my 34 years in business, from being an employee, being a business manager and leader, owning a business with 144 employees, selling my 1/3 interest of that business to where I am today and working with business leaders, is I refer to it as human capital. My business card for decades, my title was human capital developer before it ever became the popular phrase that people are using today. If anyone's ever been in my audience for the last 20 years and you have a copy of my business card, pull it out, and I will guarantee you underneath my name, it says human capital developer. That was my title. It wasn't owner, wasn't CEO, wasn't principal, wasn't whatever else. That was my title. And so Dixon, where I'm going at this is that I think the biggest mistake people make is they don't understand their talent. Example, I'll just use Andrew and I. So Andrew and I are just a little bit over the age of 40. So if you're over the age of 40, then you can have a flashback to elementary school. And if you weren't really grasping a topic in elementary school, your parents had flashcards and they would work with you at home. There's a news clue as to why we have problems with kids in school today, because parents have no clue if their kids are smart or stupid until they're no longer in school. But we'd have these flashcards. And on one side would be the question pointing at us. And we thought our parents were geniuses until we realized on the other side was the answer. So if I talk about human capital, think of it this way. So Dixon, let's say you have 10 employees. I don't know how many you have. We'll just say 10 as an example. If I gave you 10 blank 3x5 index cards, and on the one side you wrote down each of your 10 employees' names, if you flipped it over, my question would be, can you write the resume of that employee? Because leaders can write a resume of an employee. Managers cannot. See, managers look at people as a tool. They manage it and they delegate, and they're all about resource management. Leaders understand people, and so it's more of a resume. But then if you could write down a little bit of the resume, Dixon, it'd be like saying, okay, well, let's go back further. Did you know, if Andrew was your employee, that he had a paper route when he was in junior high and high school or elementary school? That's what I mean. So when I say the biggest mistake is that leaders they, a lot of times, good ones do, and ineffective ones, I don't care what their title is and how impressive people think they are. The ones that are not very effective, they demonstrate it when they go through a major transformation or whatever in their business, getting rid of a division, bringing in M&A money, PE money, selling off a division, merging things, bringing on a new product, starting something, buying a startup, whatever. But you have to look at the human capital, because the only difference, Dixon, in your company versus mine is this: people. Whatever product you have, end of the day, I can find something pretty damn close. You've got a building, I can get a building. You can buy a truck, I can buy a truck. You can, in essence, buy technology, I can buy technology. The difference is the people on your team are not on mine, and the people on my team are not on yours. And so what a great leader realizes is human capital is your only real capital in the future market space. And therefore, how do you manage them, utilize them, leverage them, grow them, develop them? Succession, develop them. Succession doesn't mean, in essence, Andrew's retiring, who's going to take over his place, but how do I grow people horizontally and vertically in my organization? How do I give them a career pathway so people are not looking to leave immediately? If someone wants to make more money, how do I show them multiple ways to make more money in my company? I had a boss years ago in Kansas City, Lyle Kraft, best employer I ever worked for in my life. Shout out to Lyle Kraft. And if you didn't have a business partner, Andrew and I probably wouldn't be talking to you tonight, because I'd still be in Kansas City working for him. But he had a silent partner that one day decided to be, in essence, no longer the silent partner, and came in a matter of a couple of months. He basically imploded the company and ran off a whole lot of us employees. But Lyle Kraft, I remember one day in a meeting that I had earshot into, that I wasn't really a part of. It wasn't, like being nosy, but I was in the room. The CFO made a comment to him as the business owner: the president of the company is making more money than you this month. And his comment was, if the president of the company is making more money than me as the owner, and the president of the company is a 100% commission paycheck person, and he has sold enough this month to make more money than me, that is a great month. And what I learned from that was he understood human capital. Not, oh my gosh, I have to go cut back his paycheck because he's making too much money. No. So again, Dixon, your question is profound. The real element of what, biggest mistake leaders make during transformation is they piss off their all-star players. They take advantage of them. They start, in essence, dismissing them. Or they, in essence, they get sucker punched by taking in the wisdom from, in essence, your B and C level players versus your A level players. We have a whole exercise we use in one of our Leadership Institute monthly programs on how to identify the traits and characteristics of all-star players. And once you have that critical template created, you can actually use that to duplicate hiring anyone in the future, because it will completely radically change all your questions, all your onboarding, all your inboarding, and et cetera. I'm sorry, Dixon, your question is so I could talk all day on it. So that's what you really want to look at, is your human capital. And then again, if you've got a cancerous, toxic person on the team, I don't care who they are or how long they've been with you. If you can't have a heart-to-heart conversation and get them to get on board with where the company's going, you've got to either find an exit ramp with dignity and grace so that they can leave the company, or just fire their butt and kick them out the door. Either way. And right now there's a lot of businesses in trouble because they have, in essence, kept very toxic people on their teams too long, because they're, in essence, a minority, or they're Caucasian, because they're a woman or they're a man, because they're from Mars or wherever. See, I don't care about the diversity cards, because if you have great people are great people, period. And sometimes we have to realize people are making excuses for who they are. Yeah, I just, in essence, did some very electrifying emotional responses there to your question. But great leaders have to deal with all of that. So again, how do we look at things? Great question. Powerful. Human capital.
Definitely. And it's actually also, a great example of, sometimes you have surprise opportunities through human capital. One of my clients, I work with, we helped him buy a new facility for his company. And, moving from one facility to the next is not a small job. But he hired a warehouse supervisor.
Brilliant.
Who had actually ran moves prior in his career. So he had someone to lead the move, and he didn't even, that's not why he brought him into the company. So there's a lot of hidden talent in many companies. So if you don't know the resume, you're passing up opportunities.
Absolutely huge. We do a Leadership Institute, and it's a 12-month program. Month 6 is all about innovation and unlocking, again, all of that talent you have on your payroll to start sharing ideas. So if you're a business owner, you're a startup, the more that you can be very transparent in, hey, this is our cash flow. This is what's in the checkbook. That's a wake-up call for a whole lot of people that might be thinking that, you're sitting on a whole bunch of money and don't want to pay them something, or we can't buy something because you're just Scrooge or what have you. That's step 1. Step 2, on a regular basis, you need to be inviting and harvesting ideas. And even if the ideas we can't implement today, have a wall where you can post them and park them and save them for the future, and everyone can see them. So, hey, we're not ignoring ideas, but this one right now, while it's relevant in the future, we can't get our arms around right now because we don't have enough people, we don't have enough resources, we don't have enough time, we don't have enough money. But don't dismiss the ideas, because they may be absolutely the golden egg tomorrow. And I find it as a universal for 30 years, no matter what the organization is I go into, no matter how great they are. So I mean, no disrespect by this statement. No matter how great the organization is, I find that they do a crappy job at best at harvesting the mental DNA on their payroll of tomorrow's new ideas that can help them to be better, faster, different, more cost-effective what they do. So again, the question again from one of our listeners a minute ago in terms of startup business or size and scope of a business, what do you have as a program, as a system, as a process to regularly invite ideas? And I'm not talking about the traditional suggestion box on the wall. It's that concept, but you have to bring it to life. Example, I've got a client in Bakersfield, California. And one of the ways that they managed ideas was in the cafeteria break room that everyone went through every day, 3 shifts a day. They had a whole wall where if someone had an idea, they in essence could suggest it into this little boxed concept, if you will, where there was a committee that brought it, but they would immediately take the idea and say, okay, who owns this idea? And let's say if it's Andrew, they would give it to Andrew, but then it went on the wall. Here's the idea. Here's who it was submitted from. And Andrew now has it. It's in his lap. And then Andrew could be publicly held accountable to, am I reading it or not? People would, in essence, hold him accountable. What's he doing? He's taking it to his boss. He's taking it to another work group. He's taking it to a special task force, or it's being implemented, or it's being relooped back to the person who presented the idea with the reason why we can't implement it right now, or we need more information. And that birthed tons of ideas. So again, just another suggestion of how do you look at tapping into the human capital on your team? So if you're a startup company, you only have 2 or 3 or 4 people, how are you tapping into it? Or Andrew's story, I'm going to outsource and hire someone who knows how to manage warehouses to facilitate moving me from point A to point B. But in the process, that person introduced him to a whole new set of technologies, because that is a profession in and of itself, warehouse management. And they have their own associations and their own certifications, and project management then creeps into the conversation, et cetera, et cetera. But again, if you want to be a great leader, there's so much you have to have your mind wrapped around. Do not fail to stay connected to your people.
Excellent. So no, definitely that's huge. So now one thing that I found is entrepreneurs and small business owners are perfectly positioned to be able to change and transform faster and easier than larger organizations, which gives them an advantage. I always say, to be a successful business owner, you got to be proactive. You can't wait for things to happen. You got to be creative and do things differently, and you got to be flexible. And those are key tenets that I'm sure fall within the Changeformational Theory as well.
Absolutely. Again, one of the models we talk about in here is, again, a model with a capital letter R, capital letter E. And it shouldn't be a one-time-a-year experience, but most businesses at the end of the year, and as we're recording this, happens to be at the end of the year, so if you're rewatching this at any time during the year, think about what you do or what you did. But most every business, the end of the year, has some sort of a internal or external retreat with the key players, whoever that is. And you sit there and you reflect on what you did in business this year. What were your goals this year? How did you approach them and execute them and achieve them? Or where did you surpass them? Where did you fail? And then you put that, as one side of your brain. And then you say, okay, now what are we going to do next year? Again, same thing, and just, wash, repeat, rinse, and here we go again. Or do we need to do something different? But why are we not doing that on a daily, weekly, monthly mindset basis? So on a regular basis, we should be revisiting what we're doing. We should be Walt Disney in step 2 in terms of reimagining. Is there any other way to do this better, faster, different, more cost effective? And sometimes it's no, but the mere drill of asking those questions is what you should be doing on a regular basis. And then you talk about, again, what the next steps are. But we don't tap into entrepreneurial energy. Today I was out shopping. It's the end of the year, and I went to an outlet mall. And, I don't like crowds, so I got up early to be there early before they open up early. So I'm there first. And it was just kind of fun watching the 30 minutes before all the stores opened up, how busy the parking lot started getting and all the crowds coming in. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm sitting in a little court area where there is basically a coffee, ice cream, cookie shop sitting right here. And none of the clothing stores are open, and there's a bazillion people out here. And isn't it great to own a franchise and just have money to waste? Because whoever owned that franchise is an idiot. And the people working inside the building are not necessarily idiots, because if you don't know what great looks like, then you don't know when you're being stupid. But if you're a business entrepreneur, that was a massive opportunity. I'm sitting there thinking, you know what? They have cookies for sale. They should, in essence, put some of those cookies from yesterday, because I'm sure they're not all fresh today. I'm probably lying, who knows? But I put some of those yesterday cookies in whatever they have for a heat source in there and warm them up, because when they're warm, we can smell them. They're cold, you can't smell them. And then I would, in essence, get some little midget cups of coffee, and I'd take that cookie and break it into like little quarter pieces, and I would just walk outside, because you ain't got one customer inside. I'd walk outside, just walk around there and say, hey, this is my coffee and cookie shop. I love you to taste one of our fresh cookies and a little cup coffee on me. If you want some, come on in. I mean, what else are you doing? You're doing nothing and you're not making any money. Well, again, they lost an hour of prime time customers because there's nowhere for those people to go except sit there and look at their watches and their phones. Well, you could have engaged a bazillion people. That's an example of the entrepreneurial spirit is, in essence, changeformational. What do you do with that opportunity given to you to turn it into a changeformational opportunity? So again, the change was, oh, wow, we're waiting for everyone else. Everyone else is doing the same thing. I mean, that one store that opens up 5 minutes earlier is going to suck some people into their store and potentially make more sales. But we've created a passive capitalist system that we live in today. For all of the greatness that we generate, we're the number one, economy on the planet, but we still are playing significantly below where we have the capacity to play if we started energizing people. So imagine we went into the people working in that store, they're probably getting hourly wage, and say, you know what, we're going to change this. We're going to pay you more than hourly wage, and here's how we're going to create a performance compensation that if you perform better and we make more money, you make more money, and give them those ideas. I mean, you got a little ice cream in the afternoon. Forget the cookies in. How about take a Dixie cup full of ice cream out there and give people taste samples? I mean, that's what, again, Main Street Americana from 100 years ago, that's how you got business in the door. No one's thinking beyond the obvious. No one's thinking beyond the obvious.
So, no, definitely. And that was another example, just being entrepreneurial, being proactive, doing something different, and being flexible. So so we're covering a lot of stuff. I just want to take a minute to talk a little bit about the Masterpreneur journey, and we can talk a little bit about, in the journey, every step is a changeformational experience if you're going to move forward. So let me just walk people through the journey and a little bit about it. So
brilliant.
So definitely, we talked about the journey consists of 2 parts. One, your business has 5 steps to go from startup to scaling, but also to lead your business successfully through each of the steps, you're going to have to change yourself and evolve. And that's the Masterpreneur evolution. So, what we're focusing on is steps 2 and steps 3, going from working in your business to working on your business, because that's one of the most difficult changes for most entrepreneurs and business owners, and less than 5% of business ever do that successfully. So, going from working in to working on, and each level you have to, there's a certain goal you have to have. There's a certain challenge you have to overcome. Definitely from there to there, the biggest piece, there's two things that have to happen. You have to, one, find the right product market fit so that you can grow your sales. And the other piece is you have to understand how to analyze and be able to start to execute systems and products. And really, what does that look like from you as an owner? You're really going from a supervisor to a manager, figuring out how to find the right product market fit so you can have a successful business, but then transitioning to a manager role so that you can continually improve it and optimize your business. And that takes different skills and a lot of different things. So, but those are all learnable.
Absolutely huge. I love the sequence. Again, as an entrepreneur, you're starting off, you're wearing all of the hats as best you know them. The more sophisticated you become as an entrepreneur, the more businesses you've done, you're still doing the same thing. You're wearing all the hats as best you know them. And then as you go into the next sequence where you start to scale, which is, again, you're hiring your first employees or non-family member first employees. Now you have to be able, and how do you supervise them while still wearing all of the hats as best you know them? And then as you start to scale up to the next level, now you can start hiring professional level employees, and you can start to take some of those positions as best you know them and really make them professional and formal and structured. And say, okay, I need someone who really understands accounts payable and receivable and payroll and taxes and et cetera. Or I need to find someone who really does understand the manufacturing side or the distribution side or the sales side or the marketing side as you get bigger and bigger and bigger. Now all of a sudden you become that company where you're now, hiring executive level people who they in their rearview mirror understand peoples and processes and systems and structures and actions and activities and business units and how to hire and onboard and et cetera. And then you become the CEO. Now it's about enterprise level. You have to understand, yes, I still need to have an understanding of what's going on downline all the way down to actually how we make money. And that's a key word right there. A lot of times businesses get in trouble because the C-suite starts to be managed by people that actually get further and further away from how the business actually makes money, that one day you start hiring people that actually have never, ever, ever had to make money. Again, part of Changeformation, we talk about, again, you look at the sport utility vehicle market. And so there's one chart I have in my book of 40 different SUVs in a marketplace from a side profile. And I asked the reader just to look at the next page at a quick glance and then turn to the next page. And then you can come back to the picture later. And I want people just to look at it at a quick glance. And what you start to realize is that the SUVs from a side profile pretty much all look the same, from a $20,000 plus Kia to almost a $500,000 Bentley. They all look the same from a quick side profile. There's nothing really different. But if you back up the story of the SUV, it goes back to Lee Iacocca, that many people don't know the name of the story, that, he's the father that birthed the minivan, and the minivan is what created the SUV. And so again, if you go back to how he created the minivan and the K car, you want to understand entrepreneurial science, go back and study, in essence, Henry Ford. And then the next real person in the whole automotive world that had to redo it again was Lee Iacocca. And so there's different stories that you can, that they teach us at the MBA level, that anyone can read these books. But I tell people, if you really want to be successful for the long term, be very careful you don't join on someone's podcast or start reading books of someone that just showed up 2 seconds ago and is claiming to be some, guru of success. But if you look at the resume, they've never really done anything. I mean, I see some of these people that are, the world's #1 coach, and you look at their resume and you go, you've never done anything. How the hell are you a coach? You got 9,000 coaching certifications. Shame on those organizations for giving you a coaching certificate when you've actually never done anything. So now back to that C-suite level. So in Changeformational, I look at the top 32 brands that filed bankruptcy in 2021 and 22. What's stunning is the majority of those brands, when you look at the C-suite level, no one in the C-suite ever spent time in sales, marketing, and revenue generation. I mean, Lane Bryant files for bankruptcy. Seriously? Toys R Us files for bankruptcy. Seriously? Bed Bath & Beyond files bankruptcy. Seriously? I mean, you go down the list and look at these businesses, it's like there's a need for them, but they're in trouble because the people running them have no clue how to be changeformational or even how to deal with change or any of the other topics that Andrew, you and I are talking about tonight. So, I mean, the highway of success there's a lot of signposts out there, people and businesses you can look at. But that highway is also littered with a lot of what used to be great businesses that are absolutely obliterated because, again, we let people that were promoted way above their level of success. And then they influenced an organization where their ego got them in trouble. One of the books I wrote years ago, there's a case study in there on American Airlines. Again, American Airlines was one of the great, legacy airlines in America forever. They've spent almost 20 years in a nosedive of one problem after the other. And it's because they've had one CEO after the other that never should have been allowed to be a CEO in that office, that is so egotistically arrogant that they won't listen to any ideas on how to be successful. And so there's an example of a letter I sent to American Airlines after 9/11, spelling out 5 things they could do to immediately become profitable. And they basically said no to all of them. And I kept escalating the letter all the way up to finally went to the chairman of the board, Robert Brennan, who is the former CEO of Sears and Roebuck Corporation. Everyone knows what he did there. He tanked that company. And so it basically, his letter was, hey, we're talking to experts. Well, those experts basically have caused that company for 20 years to never be successful. And everything in that letter I suggested they do is what Delta Airlines later had done. And Delta Airlines today, as we're doing this recording, has had 3 consecutive years of paying out $1.4 billion in profit sharing every February 14th because they're so successful. So again, that executive level, that last piece of that masterpreneur diagram that Andrew, you just were sharing, is critically important. When you let people into the C-suite, they cannot be ego driven, although ego is going to be a lot of how they got there. I get that, self-confidence, but they also can't be, in essence, people that their resume really is yelling that they're a mid-level manager at best. But because either they sucked up or people were paying attention or whatever reason, they've ended up in the C-suite. Now, caveat to that. There are a lot of people that get in the C-suite that realize that they're damn good, but they don't have the credentials to be really great, but they're smart enough to realize I better surround myself with people smarter than me so we all can win. So that diagram is very profound. People can make that an entire MBA study right there in itself.
Yes, definitely. And the other thing is they listen to the wrong people many times,
And that's the point of that letter that, again, I put the letter from Robert Brennan in my college textbook just to spell out exactly what you just said. They got advice from people that made themselves look a lot prettier than you and I, were much better in their marketing, evidently, than you and I, but they had no clue about how the company actually made money, in case everyone lost that in my story. And again, when you get to the top of that food pyramid, you better sometimes remember how you make money. And I'm familiar with people saying, Jeff, you have one story you use lots. So I get excited, I start to stutter here. That I tell CEOs, again, if you're in a manufacturing facility, you should on a regular basis define what that means. Once a day, once a week, once a month. It better not be less than once a month. If you're in a manufacturing facility, you should at least on a regular basis get out and do what they say down in Australia. You need to go on a walkabout. You need to get out and you need to walk the entire facility. It gives you a chance to pat people on the back, see what great's going on, give people right there at the moment in time, accolades for doing something great. If something's not going right, you have the opportunity to conversationally jump in and say, hey, how do we fix this? What can we do? This we're better than this, etc. Versus waiting until you see something on a spreadsheet that says something's going right or wrong. So on a regular basis, you need to be out there. Again, if you have locations all over the country, if you're a great CEO and you've got a great team, my gosh, you got the best job in the world. You get to go see everyone and just drink coffee and pat people on the back and be a huge ear and listen to your team tell you how to become better.
Definitely. So this is like amazing. But the worst part of my show is an hour is just not long enough to talk to people like you.
Thank you so much.
Definitely. But people only have so much of an attention span, so we got to keep it in a reasonable time frame. And definitely appreciate everybody in the audience tuning in. Definitely love your comments, questions. I wish we could have gotten to all of them, but that being said, I think we covered a lot of valuable insights. But before we go, Jeff, I want to ask you to share the 3 key takeaways from what we discussed tonight, because I think that it's very important to really give people something they can focus on. Most people can't remember more than 3 things anyway. So if we can give them 3 things to sort of focus on starting tomorrow, that would be tremendous. So I'll give you a couple minutes to do that. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to just share a little bit about something that we launched that is powerful for entrepreneurs and business owners. So let's take a quick look. So we've got the Masterpreneur Growth Assessment that we launched this year, and it's really a tool I've been working on for years. And it basically outlines many of the key things I do working with entrepreneurs and business owners. And what it does is it allows you to get your Masterpreneur score, which tells you where your business is along the 5 steps and gives you a score out of 100. So that helps you find out where you are and learn where you should be focusing your efforts. So it's really assesses where you are and gives you insight about the path forward to grow your business more successfully. So here's a little bit about the Masterpreneur assessment. And once I play the short video, then we'll come back with Jeff and he'll share his 3 key things, 3 key takeaways. So here it is. Most businesses are not growing and the owner is not making enough money. Unfortunately, if you're not growing, you're dying. If you don't know what's preventing you from growing, what you need to do next, or how best to move forward, you will not grow. Where should you start? Challenge yourself. Take our Masterpreneur Growth Assessment to understand which stage your business is in. Know what's needed to get to the next stage and how you'll need to evolve to lead your organization more successfully. Masterpreneur Growth Assessment will determine the next step and outline the journey that you'll need to take to achieve the growth faster and easier. Okay. All right. So welcome back. I'm here with Dr. Jeff Magee. We're talking small business. Tonight's topic is Changeformational Theory, how to win in tomorrow's market space. So Jeff, we covered a lot of things, but what are the top 3 things people should take away from our conversation tonight?
Great question. Number 1 is, in fact, the title of our whole program, Changeformational. You should be asking yourself every minute of every day. I mean, put a sign, put a Post-it note, put it on a marquee, brand it. What opportunities are we, in essence, leveraging today that's going to put us in a better position to win today, not tomorrow? So think better, faster, different, cost effective. But 1 is transformational. I think that's the first word I'd leave you with. Again, everyone is experiencing the same opportunities that you're experiencing. It's a matter of who's seeing them, who's aware of them, who's able to say, this is one I can't do anything about, but this is one I can. And therefore, what can I do using this change that's happening in front of me as the door opener, the windows opening, the excuse, the justification, and whatever, to make a major transformation happen right now. By doing that, you'll be transformational. So that's number 1. Number 2 is the word legacy. I mean, what is your legacy? I'm always using that approach as I talk and coach, and advise leaders. Again, what is your legacy? And I don't mean something big and profound, but every time you have a chance to interact with someone, when you walk away, that is an example of legacy. What's the impression that you've left in their head? Again, I'm reminded, with people in my life that have coached me, that sometimes I'm maybe not as patient with people because you never know what sort of crap's going on in their life, to be blunt about it. So again, but what's your legacy? How do you help someone to be better than who they were before they met you? How do you help someone to see that they can, achieve more than maybe what they realize? How do you help to grow someone's self-confidence in a world where everyone maybe feels their confidence is being attacked? So the second word after transformational is going to be legacy. And I think the third one is really resiliency, bounce back. The very first book I ever wrote, 36 books I've written, translated over the years into 21 different languages, 4 graduate management best-selling textbooks, 4 trade book best-selling books, only 1 personal success book written in that 36 book journey. But the very first book I ever wrote, Andrew, is called Bounce Back Self-Marketing. And Bounce Back was about resiliency. That's the buzzword today. If I used another word, I'd call it bounce back. How do you take the problems, the challenges, the defeats, the things that didn't go quite right, and how do you turn those around instead of let those become debilitating impacts on what you're doing? So transformational, legacy, and resiliency or bounce back.
Okay, excellent. So those are 3 powerful takeaways. Of course, transformational. Definitely Jeff has a book on that topic. So if you want to learn more, you can grab that from his website. Website's in the chat as well. Legacy, impact. What type of impact are you having? Do you want to have? I think that it's important to think long term and not just short term. So
absolutely,
that's really what legacy and legacy can just mean, how am I helping people? And how am I impacting what they're doing, as well as how am I impacting my business? But, you want to leave this world better than you came into it. You want to leave everything you do better than where you came to it. So that's really what legacy is all about. And then resiliency. I mean, everybody has suffered a loss or beat down, and you got to get back up,
You're an entrepreneur, you live there. That's your zip code.
Right.
That is your zip code.
And someone told me, I don't remember who now, but they were like, you're usually successful in your third business. So you got to hurry up and fail twice. So you got to.
There's some truth to that. I have a great friend of mine, Jim Stovall, in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I met many years ago with Narrative Television Network, and that's a phrase he first introduced me to. So I don't know who said it first, but I'm going to give him credit for the first time it came into my head. If I'm going to do something, I want to fail to success. I want to fail to failure. But the bottom is I want to fail fast. If I'm going to fail, I don't want to spend forever trying to get there. Let's do it and get it over with.
Right. And many times you get your biggest lessons in failures. You really, you can be successful and not even understand why. But if you fail, you take some time and figure it out, and then you're better for it. So excellent. So this has been amazing, Jeff. I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule. You shared some amazing, insights, valuable knowledge. And
thank you very much. I appreciate the invitation. It's been fun just visiting with you, and thank you very much. And hopefully for our listeners live and in the future, you and I have teed up some thoughts to get them to think forward faster. Definitely.
So appreciate that. If you can hang out for a minute while I close things out. Once again, great episode. Thanks for your comments. Thanks for your questions. And helping to make this a great year. Just have a short message for you, and then I'll come back and close things out. Hello, everybody. Andrew Frazier here. And as we close out the year, I just want to thank all of our clients, our sponsors, event attendees, business partners, and volunteers. Because of you, 2025 was our best year ever, and we couldn't have done it without your support and trust. As we look forward to 2026, I'm excited to continue working and growing together. From all of us at Small Business Pro University, happy holidays and Merry Christmas, and best wishes for a successful new year. Okay, welcome back. So thanks again, everybody, for that. Thanks for tuning in. Hopefully you'll join us next week. Our guest is Jimmy Newsom, and he's always amazing. Definitely he is going to share some valuable insights. He's doing great things with his moving forward small business, and really helping people with their business strategy and using analysis to be able to move more strategically. And this is the perfect time of year to look at your strategies and your plans for 2026. So hopefully you can join us then. And then always remember, at the end of the day, the more that you know, the faster and more successfully your business is going to grow.
Thank you for listening to Leadership Live at 8:05, Talking Small Business. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and to the podcast on your favorite podcast platform. Leadership Live is one of the many valuable resources provided through the Small Business Pro University, empowering business owners to learn, profit, and grow. Find out more at sbpro.u.com.